Hey everyone, it's Marina from Jungle, and I am recording this from a totally different spot. It's don't worry about it. It looks like I'm like in some abandoned house, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm just over in Adelaide, traveling around doing some stuff. All right, so this is another tiny little episode, as I promised to do as many of these as I can, on the views of a management consultant who, for better or for worse, have had 25 years of experience. And I follow the same format every time. First of all, I just tell you an experience, spill the tea, a little bit of gossip about something that happened in real life for me. Hopefully it'll validate, it might explain some things that you're going through and you'll go, oh yeah, that's happened to me too. Then I give you my brief analysis of what was going on from a business point of view and the consequence of it, and then I will do my best to give you some tips or advice. So you might be able to learn from the situation I found myself in, or not. Today I don't have a lot of good advice. I'll just warn you, all right? So just lower your expectations if you think there's going to be some nugget. All right. So this one is again about KPIs and metrics, sort of a combination of when data meets humans and how the intersection can be quite gross. So this happened only a couple of years ago, this situation, and where I found myself, I was sitting in a boardroom and I was privy to a CEO describing the output from one of those staff, those staff morale or pulse surveys, that type of thing. And as he whipped up this PowerPoint to show us through, I start laughing now. It really struck me how shit this PowerPoint was, how badly it constructed it was. Like the fonts, it was just, I don't know, I remember at the time just thinking, what the hell's going on there? Like, just looked a bit shit. Like it looked like it needed that old paperclip like logo icon on there, but anyway, it is what it is. So anyway, he gets up and he starts talking about how everything's so rosy and all this stuff, and then he starts working through this like pretty average PowerPoint, and I'm a numbers person, right? And I'm looking at these numbers that he's putting up, but there were numbers that were missing. It's like, that's weird. So the numbers were supposed to be like, basically, I'm going to change some of this, like 0 to 100 to explain how happy or engaged staff were. Theory being staff who are happy and engaged are safer, work with other customers better, and are just nicer to each other. And the reverse is often true as well. Unhappy staff are typically, you see, they're more unsafe, etc. All that type of stuff. I don't need to tell you guys that. You will know that. So these are good indicators, right? And they make sense. So the people and culture folks weren't wheeling this out. CEO was. Which in itself, I've got to tell you, I was like, it's a bit random, but anyway. So I sat with interest, and then he started to put up these slides. Now the slides, friends, the scale had been tampered with. It's probably a strong way to put it, but if you've got a scale from 0 to 100 and you're sitting at 54, then the scale creates the necessary context for shared understanding. I hope you would all agree on that. And in a PowerPoint, I think those types of things are quite important. Well, this little monkey had created an artificial scale that had started at 42, I think it was, to 100 as the units. So when he was putting his achievement, which was shit by the way, as a percentage, the way he constructed it, or the negative part, it actually looked really good. But I'm looking at the numbers and I thought the little table underneath and what was in the repack didn't match what I was seeing up on this really sketchy slide deck. I thought, oh, that's weird. Anyway, but on he goes and he's waffling on. And that was a bit disrespectful for me to say that, but he was waffling on, right? The hubris was great. And he was talking in this really emotional, what I call like fawning language. Like, everyone loves me. He actually was talking about how happy people are that he's around. It was all me comments. So for those of you who've worked with me closely, and I trust you, I should add those caveats, I've got a really good poker face. But even that, my capacity to keep my face straight was starting to get a bit challenged. I'm thinking like, data looks shit. Why is this guy's behaviour so self-centric? I don't know if it was quite narcissistic, but it was very immature professionally, because basically he was trying to do the whole don't look at the data, don't ask questions, just believe me, please love me type of thing. Very immature. Anyway, he was going on and on and on about it. And then he put this slide up. And I probably did just do what I did, like went. And on this slide was, I'll never forget it, was a donut chart, which in itself is quite weird. It's like a radial chart. Unless you know how to read them, they can be a bit intimidating. I think he might have done that on purpose to make the data a little bit harder for people to ask questions about. And I was giving the benefit of the doubt. He put up this data, so this weird baseline, the context had been manipulated away from the original survey results, put it into a donut chart. Here's the kicker, there are two kickers. He changed the colouring to green. And I think I would be fair in saying most of us think green signals positive, right? You'd be like, yeah, this is great. We're all good. Yeah, nah. Just as the Aussies say, yeah, nah. And then I made the mistake of asking a question, because by this stage I'm looking around the boardroom table going, is anyone else like effing alarmed here? I didn't say that, but I was sort of looking around going, am I thinking? And then I did get a bit intimidated. I thought, mate, I'm the only one here who's seen that. And this is not the first time, unfortunately, it's happened to me in my career. But a bit like that social experiment, you know, the one where they've got the actors and everyone stands up and then one unactor gets intimidated and then starts to stand up as well. It felt a bit like that for me, where I was looking around going, I'm so confused. Like, these are dreadful results, high-risk results, and all because it's green. It's got a shit legend. This guy's talking weird. The storytelling that's going around it seems to be steering us away from going, what is going on with staff? And no one's questioning it, right? So I thought, oh. So I get quiet because I'm still like my head processing, still doubting myself a bit. And he comes up with his number, with his little donut chart, without a word of a lie, friends. He put a thumbs up icon next to these shit results in green, and people were like nodding. I was like, I mean, I don't know if it's just because of my background, but I think my head might have snapped around a bit, going like, what the fuck? So here's this CEO, dreadful results, high risk data, to people who actually should care and are legally obligated to care, being actively misled. I'm going to say actively. The whole thing was just wild how bad it was on this front. Now, my analysis of it, right? You can data is really powerful. It's like AI and all this other stuff. Really, really, really powerful. And the context matters, right? Massively. Everything needs to have the context and the data that sits in amongst it and all that part of it. And this guy knew it. So apart from the fact everyone should get really comfortable with, being able to read tables and data and all that stuff, and, abandon all that comment around, oh, I'm not a maths person. No, get rid of that. Ask for help if you don't understand how something works, or you're seeing something that you're not sure of. Don't be intimidated, ask some dumb questions, because it matters. Because Muppets like this can easily manipulate the truth and then squeeze stuff on by without much interrogation. Now, my other part of this analysis is probably a reflection of how much I think about stuff, right? Bit of deep thinking going on here. I'm watching this guy by this stage when I felt confident. I thought, he's misleading these folks. And I thought, he's done this before. You don't just suddenly wake up one day and then decide to do something that bold and then you just don't. You work up to it. You cut corners on reports. You get your mates to also participate in a bit of bullshit. You tell the exec they don't need to know about. You know that type of shit that's going on? It's all about controlling the narrative for some reason rather than being truthful. And it spreads like a contagion as well when you have someone in leadership talking like that. So I'm watching this guy thinking, this guy is a bullshit artist, big time. And I can see why his results suck as well. Which is sort of funny. And thumbs up or not, you still suck. And so my analysis was multi-layered here, right? It was the power of like watching this stuff being manipulated, being a lot more astute than maybe we allow ourselves to be, to look at the whole, the data, how the data was being presented, the storytelling that was going with it. But then the final kicker was when I asked about the data, how he turned on me in the meeting. He mocked me. You know that special, I don't think you understand how to read the graph. I'm like, really? You don't think that? So I got mansplained a bit, womansplained, purpose, whatever it is, person-splained, doesn't matter, whatever it is. That patronising, mocking tone came my way as I listened to this little, this dude trying to convince me his staff weren't on the verge of going to the union. Anyway, they did all do that, the union, and that all did happen, but that's not the point. All right, here's some tips. Probably the first tip is a bit of one of these like pseudo-inspirational ones. If you're good at math and you know your stuff, then believe in yourself, right? You don't necessarily need to act. You don't need to do, sort of be reactive and go, what the, in the moment. But definitely grab all that data and then in a quiet moment, get your head around what the truth is. Because the truth does set you free, on that front. I think the guy's a clown. It's a terrible thing to say, right? But I do perversely admire how bad he is. I'm like, wow, imagine being that bold. Number one, so believe in yourself. Second of all, in terms of what else you can do, is build a coalition or a couple of other people who, that you're not going to run into their ego when you point out something that's contrary to the truth. Because one little footnote to that story, when I realised how bad and what I suspected this fellow was doing, I approached someone who I thought was a numbers person, and he looked at the data and he was like, oh yeah, I missed that. And then he took it to someone else to try to get a bit more evidence around it, only to touch the ego of the little bear at the top, and it all went terribly wrong. So be a little bit street smart on how you deal with all this stuff. And my last thing, in terms of advice, is do not participate. Do not get involved with people who are playing the game and they're playing around with stuff around with data, because it will come back to bite you. It will, in some capacity. But more so, you just want to sleep straight at night, do you? I hate the fact that I walked away in the end, knowing this guy was doing what he was doing. And yeah, I gave a good fight, gave a few good kicks as I left, but it bothers me when you start to see leaders taking advantage of people and then manipulating and all this stuff. It's not right. Here you go. Here's today's rather long gossip story. I don't know if these are useful or not, but they're sort of funny in a way to reflect upon. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Good luck out there.